Sidelines.
To be punched in. Hey, Rob Browne here with you on this Monday college football, basketball, baseball roundtable. Got a great lineup today. Uh, Man, Super Bowl Sunday was a lot of fun. Painful ending if you're an Eagles fan, because I was pulling for Jalen Hurts, being he an SEC guy playing quarterback for the Eagles. But also had several other players I was pulling for the Eagles. Kenny Gainwell played at Memphis, and Jake Elliott, field goal kicker, kickoff guy for the Eagles. But they came up short. We're going to talk a lot with it today. Billy Roberts is on with us from over in Atlanta, as well as Ben Troupe from down in Savannah, ESPN Coastal. We're going to get their takes on the Super Bowl and the second segment. Glenn Rogers, another friend of ours from Memphis, played 9 years of pro ball in Canada and in the NFL. We're going to get his take on it as well, and talking some high school football recruiting and what's going on that level, as well as he's in his, I guess, 23rd year at MUS coaching after a great career at Memphis and in pro football. A Southside scrapper. Love having him on here. Hour number 2 will be joined by Yancy Porter from Oxford, Mississippi. Rebel Yell Hotline, Monday nights, 6 to 7 p.m. on Sports 56 WHBQ and Super Talk Mississippi. Look forward to always hearing what he has to say. And in the final segment this day, we will have Wess Moore from Little Rock, ESPN 103.7 The Buzz, talking about what's going on in the SEC with the Razorbacks and Texas and Oklahoma and everybody out on the Western front. Always a lot to talk about. It never a dull moment. And those of us that watch the Super Bowl Sunday, I don't know if there's any conspiracy theories, or they're just coincidences, or maybe there's just no coincidences. State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. And who is the poster boy for State Farm Insurance? Patrick Mahomes. And that call, it was a painful call. And I agree with what the broadcasters are saying. Do you really make that call when the guy just barely touched his jersey? Oh, gosh. That was painful. But look, you got 60 minutes to get the job done. Either you do it or you just come up short. But Jalen Hurts, I mean, look at his numbers and Patrick Mahomes' numbers. He played with an injured ankle, we were told. He sure didn't look like it out there. He probably was got a shot of something, as MJ said, and had a club foot. Probably didn't even know he had an ankle or a foot during that game. But, man, that was still I had it picked. I had the Eagles to win 34-31. I thought I was going to hit it right on the money, but I did not. And, that's just the way it goes. But we're going to be talking a lot about, what could have happened, what we hoped would happen, but really all that matters is what did happen. That is the second Super Bowl title in the last 4 years for the Kansas City Chiefs. Twice Patrick Mahomes has been the NFL MVP, and it's rare that the passing leader also is the Super Bowl champion. Ben Troupe knows just how hard that is, as hard as it is for anything. You can imagine the pressure that you have as the MVP to perform in the Super Bowl, and also Jalen Hurts. Again, the Super Bowl record for rushing yards. I think he had 72 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. Incredible. And it was a game that I think we'll look at over and over and over. And one time the ball fell out of Jalen Hurts. It slipped out of his hands, and it was picked up for a scoop and score. That was painful to watch that. But just kind of my opening, Rob-a-log here. And the second time and I want Ben to talk about this, you got to make a football move. It was a pass. It looked like a complete pass to me, to the Eagles receiver, but they said he didn't make a football move. And that could have been 2 scooping scores by the same defensive player for the Chiefs. And then Kadarius Toney out of Mobile. Gator, I know Ben would be proud of his Florida Gator, longest punt return in Super Bowl history. Okay, bring him on. Yeah. Okay. Ben, Billy, I'm on a roll there, and I texted Pat Dye Jr. over in Atlanta during the game last night, and I said, man, I'm watching a lot of your guys, Landon Dickerson. I'm watching Kadarius Toney. He had a good night, and he said he's going to do his best to be on the show with us Wednesday to talk about it. But Ben, first off, what did you think about that game?
I enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it. I think I do agree when you start talking about a guy like Patrick Mahomes, man. I mean, he's gonna get, you got to put him away. And I don't know if that's even possible in today's NFL with the way he could push the ball down the field. But I think for one night, you saw everything you wanted to see. The only thing you didn't see last night was defense. It wasn't a lot of defense going on either side of the ball. But, I mean, what can't you say about Jalen Hurts, man? I mean, people always talk about what Lamar Jackson means to that Ravens offense. If Jalen Hurts is not out there, I mean, 3 rushing touchdowns? The 2-point conversion was the most impressive thing he did. He had to run through a guy. Like, so when people say, well, y'all always showing Jalen Hurts with this squat rack. Jalen Hurts is the greatest quarterback sneaker ever. I don't care who you got on he's going to get it. The 1 yard, 2 yards. But I do agree with the Bradbury situation, though, him and Juju Smith. I mean, if that's the other way around, if that's Jalen Hurts and then you're talking about Devonta Smith or A.J. Brown, do they still call it? I don't know. But, the refs, they're going to get a bad rep no matter what. I mean, they miss more calls than they make. But it was a good game, man. It really, really was. I mean, I thought that Travis Kelce was going to be the MVP, how the first half started. I'm like, if they can't do no better than that, he's going to be the first tight end to win the MVP. But it was a great game. I think Jalen Hurts, he can hold his head. I mean, it's going to be hard to beat Kansas City. But all in all, I wanted the Eagles to win, not for selfish reasons. I think it's good for the NFL when other teams kind of like start their own little dynasty or what may have you. But Nick Sirianni, man, he is built to be the coach of the Eagles. He is. If ever there was a coach built to be the head coach of the Eagles, it's him. But shout out to the Kansas City Chiefs, man. 4 straight years, win the AFC going to the AFC Championship, 2 Super Bowl appearances, 3 Super Bowl appearances, 2 Super Bowl wins. Hey, man, that man with the mohawk to do the State Farm commercials. If we don't do something quick, man, he's gonna be right back in the Super Bowl next year.
Billy, you watched that game. What was your take on it?
I thought it was a good ball game. I mean, too many Super Bowls are just kind of like, one team dominates and it doesn't really go down to the wire. That one certainly did. You hate that a questionable call, decides it in the end, with a chip shot field goal at the end, even though, he had missed one earlier. But overall, good ball game, 2 good quarterbacks going at it. You love to see, guys at the peak of their athletic career. These guys are still young. They're just, doing great. And I love that. I thought it was terrific going at it tooth and nail, triumph of 2 quarterbacks having a career year. Even though Mahomes was hurt, allegedly, he sure broke off that long run. He looked great. Nobody could catch him. I mean, he left 3 guys in the dust with a bad ankle. I mean, I'll take a bad ankle like that.
Yeah, Billy, he had that Paul Pierce, man. I mean, remember when Paul Pierce in the playoffs, he was out. They got to put him on the stretcher. He goes in and comes back out. Listen, I ain't never seen Patrick Mahomes run that fast. He ain't clocking 20 miles an hour. But when he had to pull it down and run it, but that's what happens when all week long he's the lesser of the 2 athletic. I'm the better of the 2 throwing the ball, but obviously he got better wheels over there with the Eagles. He said, hey, man, I get to show off my wheels. Now, that's probably not going to happen. That's not a recipe for success moving forward But, hey, man, I get the whole offseason to rest. I got the whole offseason to get this ankle right.
Absolutely.
Like I said,
that's a guy
for one game.
On the line.
Exactly.
Yeah, adrenaline kicks in, for any athlete, in the moment, whatever nagging injury you got, he saw daylight and took it. And like I said, he's got the whole offseason to recuperate. Good for him. I mean, that was a dagger right there. That was, that took clock, that took, down and distance. That was a bold play, and hats off. That was greatness shows up at the right moment, and he certainly did right there.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You can be in a lot of pain, but when you just get through it, and it's going to be a memory for a lifetime, and it's worth it. I mean, and whatever he did, it worked, and the trainers, that's what they get paid a lot of money to do. That game, those two quarterbacks, look at the stats. The stats don't matter. What matters is who wins and loses. Mahomes 182 yards passing. And Jalen Hurts was 304. Jalen Hurts proved that he belongs on that big stage as an NFL quarterback, Ben.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't you agree, both of y'all?
Absolutely. I mean, what else do Jalen Hurts got to do? I mean, I went to Alabama. I lost 2 games. I got upseated by Tua. Tua goes out and wins in the second half. He has a big throw in the second half, winning out the championship. To then come back and have to bail out Tua in the SEC championship a year prior. Goes to Oklahoma, Heisman Trophy runner-up. I mean, Jalen Hurts just looks at people and go, what do I got to do? Like, well, I've won in high school, college. Now I'm still winning. Just don't compare me to other guys. I'm my own type of quarterback. I'm not Patrick Mahomes. I'm not Justin Herbert. I'm not, Josh Allen. But I was also one of 2 quarterbacks left standing in the National Football League. I had the best record in the NFC. I mean, and I represented the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts, if you can't root for him, you don't like football. Regardless of what college you went, if you can't root for Jalen, you do not like football, because cool, calm, collected. And like I said, man, no one saw the Eagles doing this year. No one saw the Eagles being nowhere, having the season that they had. You take Jalen Hurts off that team, man. Take nothing away from, A.J. Browne and Devonta Smith and go. He makes that offense go, and for one night, the whole world got to see just what he's made of.
Yeah, and that touchdown pass, 45 yards to A.J. Browne. I mean, he was the number 1 player in Mississippi. I think he's from Starkville. Of course, went to Ole Miss, and was talking to a friend of mine Friday night about him. He said, I went to see him in high school, and the first time you just could tell this guy is just the alpha male, and he's going to be great on every level, and he is. And then you look at Kenny Gainwell. They didn't seem to ever have a running play really break open for anything big. I watched Gainwell. By the way, you talk about evaluating recruits. Kenny Gainwell's from Yazoo City, Mississippi, and grew up, out in the country. And his weight training basically was about as basic as it gets. A lot of it was just, out in the yard and just growing up in the country. The number 124 rated running back in America out of high school goes to Memphis, and his freshman year has over 1,400 yards rushing. Billy, that's another reason I love this game, is seeing a guy like that. And Memphis people very excited. Jake Elliott, the field goal kicker for the Eagles. That would have been a lot of fun. But bottom line, Jalen Hurts, he doesn't fit the narrative that a lot of people write about what an NFL quarterback is supposed to be. Throwing motion, height, whatever. You know what? Another excuse people try to make about Jalen is, well, he's never been on a bad team. That works both ways, doesn't it, gentlemen?
Well, absolutely. I mean, he's the reason why the team's not bad.
Right.
The guy's a winner, and he's a good lesson for us all, whether you're a young athlete or even somebody in the middle of your career. He had, public setbacks. He was benched on the biggest stage for a younger guy, and he didn't pout, and he comes back a year later, and he's the guy that bails out, in the moment. I mean, a lot of people would have transferred out. A lot of people would have pouted, shown their ass, mouthed off, sulked. He did none of that. That guy had a lot of self-confidence. He's like, I'll just bide my time and take my shot the next time I get it. I mean, I wished I had, in a lot of moments in my career, the maturity to handle professional setbacks in that manner. I mean, as a man, he's an impressive person. As an athlete, that goes without saying that he's impressive, but just as a guy, handling a kick in the nuts, whatever you want to call it, he was fantastic. And then when he got his chance, he did it. And, he's going to get a big payday as a reward, and hats off to him. He deserves every penny.
Yeah. Ben, it's funny. Alabama fans claim him old Oklahoma fans. I mean, I think he's an Alabama guy, but you can't discount what Oklahoma did for him in terms of developing his passing game. 4,500 yards in that 1 year in the Lincoln Riley system.
Lincoln Riley is the best quarterback coach in college football, bar none. I mean, his resume, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, you talk about, what he did for Jalen Hurts, but even what Billy said about a guy like Jalen Hurts is, Jalen Hurts is a football player. Like, I could do this. Like, I've been doing it. I played football in Texas, high school football. For those of you who they got high school stadiums bigger than college stadiums. They got movies about. And the thing about Jalen Hurts, I think he said, listen, man, I had a purpose well before y'all had an opinion. Y'all don't really know me, man. Y'all so ready to write me off. Okay, well, Tua went higher than me. Mac Jones went higher than me, and all of them guys watching. In the Super Bowl, Josh Allen watching me, Justin Herbert watching me. So the next great players that y'all want to put, greatness comes in a lot of forms. But I say this, it's not how you play, it's who you play for. You know how hard it is to play for the Eagles? It is not an easy task. They will boo you at home. So when you play for an organization like the Eagles, they expect to win. Eagles fans expect the 76ers to win. So may God bless those people, because that's not going to happen. But Jalen Hurts is fit to be an Eagle. He said, no one thought I would go where I went and as high as I went. And I tell you what, I bet you his head coach wouldn't have nobody else. Like, hey, man, I love this dude, and I know what he means to this team. He means to the Eagles what Patrick Mahomes means to Kansas City, not the same player.
Yeah, hold those thoughts. We're going to come right back with more. Ben Troupe, Billy Roberts, Rob Browne, Sidelines after this. Okay, Rob Browne back here talking about the Super Bowl yesterday, man. What a game. And Ben, love what you just said. Love that take about, Jalen Hurts played it. He's from Channelview, Texas. And, and talking with people that follow Alabama recruiting closely, they've told me a number of times, they said Burton Burns was the running backs coach at Alabama at the time who really liked him. He was so tough. And Lane Kiffin. And they had to really work on Nick Saban to get him to sign him. He came in January of, he came in early out of high school, January, went through spring practice. 2016, he has Alabama right there in that national championship game. They lose with 1 second left. Hunter Renfrow catches a pass, and they lose it. 2017, it's not going well. They make the change in the second half to Tua. You're right. Instead of being a miserable, cancerous teammate, he sucked it up and looked at the big picture and said, I'm gonna take advantage of this being in this system here at Alabama, and then I'll reevaluate at the end of the year. He did that. It was a class act. And again, look at him and look at all these other guys. He didn't get the Super Bowl win, but we had Wesley Britt on the show, former Alabama player, last Thursday. He talked about 2007. He goes, man, we were undefeated, 18-0, the Patriots, in that game against the New York Giants. And Tyree makes the helmet catch, and I don't get a ring, and there goes my $100,000 bonus. This stuff hurts, even at the pro level, just like it does in college. But what I liked about Jalen Hurts, both of y'all, was after the game, the way he handled it. I mean, he goes, look, got to move on. He wasn't blaming anybody. He's just going to look within and get better. He's not going to let other people write his story. And his story at age 24 is far from complete.
Yeah, well, Ben made a good comment right before the break. And he was talking about Philadelphia is a tough environment. They'll boo Santa Claus. They'll boo their own, star players. And all of the things that he went through in college gave him such thick skin. He might be the perfect guy, to endure playing in Philadelphia, because what are they going to do to get to him? He's already endured everything just to be at the stage that he's on. So, isn't it funny how fate delivers him as the perfect quarterback to be in Philadelphia with the fan base that they have? I'm fascinated by that. He's the right guy in the right place, and he'll have a long, great career. I mean, sometimes in the Super Bowl, guys are, on their last legs, as a quarterback, but they get there on the back of a good team. Sometimes the quarterback is young and not ready for that stage. But, here were two quarterbacks at their peak going at it. Both were, prepared for the moment and had the athletic ability to show off in the moment and show what they could do. That's what made it a great game. There wasn't anybody who was too small for the moment or too old for the moment. These guys are at the peak of their ability. They're young enough, but experienced enough to do what they did last night.
Yeah. Ben?
Yeah, and the thing is, too, when you think about a guy like Jalen, he's just ahead of his time mentally. You don't find guys that young that poised. I mean, I think he's one of the first guys to have Nicole Lynn representing him. I think he has all women representing him behind the scenes. And you're just talking about the way in which he controls these media rooms. When he's in there, he's holding court. They trying to get him with these, no, I'm cool, come, because he knows no matter what, y'all don't do what I do. Y'all, and I think he respects everybody. And that's what you can appreciate. As great as Aaron Rodgers is, Aaron Rodgers went to one Super Bowl. He won it, but he went to one. So when people get to talking about this greatness, right? Aaron Rodgers is going to one Super Bowl. And yes, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Ben Roethlisberger went to 3. He lost 1. Aaron Rodgers. Eli Manning went to 2. Beat the GOAT twice. So it just depends when you talk about what these players mean to these teams. But I played in Philly. Them fans are rough because they hold you accountable. They're not fair weather fans. If you ain't playing right, they will boo you at home. Didn't they beat up Santa? They did something to Santa. Santa ain't coming back to Philly. I can't remember what they did to him. But what I appreciate about last night was sometimes your best effort doesn't mean you're going to win the game. Jalen Hurts had one mistake the whole playoffs. It cost him a touchdown with Nick Bolton, who, for those who don't know, this boy was a tackling machine at Mizzou. What he did last night, that's what he did in the SEC at Mizzou with 3 rushing touchdowns and a 2-point conversion, 300 yards passing, and a touchdown, and you lose? What else can I do? I gave you all I had, but he don't blame his teammates. He don't point the finger at his coaches. That's what I like the most about Jalen Hurts. He puts it all on him. And like I said, the same way people thought that Patrick Mahomes is going to be a problem, Jalen Hurts is going to be a problem, man. Because this dude, they're going to keep on giving him weapons. He's going to keep on getting better. And, hey, man, I know everybody thought it was going to be, Lamar Jackson, who it can, or Justin Herbert, or the Josh Allens. Watch out for that young man in Philadelphia, man. He's going to get a big payday this offseason.
Well, what about your Gator, Kadarius Toney out of Mobile?
Oh, my God.
Again,
don't get me started.
Well, Jamar P. Ryan, what was the running back that ran an 88-yard touchdown back against Auburn?
Lamichael P. Ryan.
Yeah,
Lamichael P. Ryan had an 80-yard touchdown pass. 80-yard touchdown run against Auburn, the same team that told him he was too slow. They didn't recruit him because he was too slow. Now, they almost caught him, but they didn't. Almost catching me, Rob, and still said, I got in that zone.
Well, remember, I think he was from Theodore and Auburn and Alabama. What a miss that was. And, he drove himself over to Florida and there was a track meet over there in Gainesville. And I think as his friend's beard calls him Old Yeller, Jim McElwain watched him and was like, oh, my goodness. And they gave him a scholarship. And here's Kadarius Toney out of Mobile, second year. And, again, longest punt return in Super Bowl history, like 65 yards. And it is a game, Ben, it's most every game is decided on 4 or 5 plays. But what really matters is how do you handle it when something doesn't go right? And Hurts never throws tantrums. And boy, that's got to pay off if you're one of his teammates, doesn't it? Hey, talk about expectations. He played at Alabama 3 years, Oklahoma at 1. Those fan bases expect, a win and a championship every year.
They do, and rightfully so. And even going back to what you said about the plays that matter. Kadarius Toney, look, when Kadarius Toney got that punt, he went to the left. I've seen this movie before. I said, this boy finna cut it back to the right. And this is like Kadarius, this is what we used to call him. He's a fast, slow guy. He's moving fast, but it don't look like he's moving that fast. Everybody else just moving a little slower than him. But the play of the game was Jared McKinney, who went to Georgia Southern. When he can score and he stops and he just kneels down, that is the play. The game is over because we're going to run the clock up. That is beautiful football because they thought, hey, man, he's a young guy. He gets to score in the Super Bowl. Now he realized, wait a minute, why are they trying to tackle me? The light bulb went on. Boom. It was something. And the play with Kadarius Toney when they thought he was going in motion and Darius was going to give it to the other side. He comes back. That was some beautiful play calling, man. But everybody got to show off what they did. And the little young running back, the little rookie running back with Kansas City, hey, man, that kid he's not going to be able to make it 10 years running that hard, but he's a beautiful football player.
Well, let me say this. He played at Rutgers. Pacheco, and look, I'm talking to 2 lifelong Falcons fans. Have y'all heard from Job lately? Patience and suffering, my gentlemen. It's just that guy, that little running back. You're right, but my goodness, he is like like somebody just spins him and just he's like a Tasmanian devil. And he's so hard to tackle. But the player, Ben, let me ask you this, and Billy, I want you to get you remember the Auburn Florida State game when Trey Mason busted up 37 yards up the gut for Auburn to take the lead at the end. And a lot of people said, why didn't Auburn just have him fall down at the 1 or the 2? And I'm like, are you crazy? What? Because you know what would happen if you didn't. But Auburn was down at that time by 4 points. Now, had it been a field goal, maybe so. But I don't know. Billy, have you ever seen that happen before, what Ben just talked about? Because I remember it last night. It was like he knew what to do. I've never seen anybody do that.
Talking about a guy making a heads-up play and having his wits about him with, a bunch of 200-something pound dudes all around him and slid, without scoring, the discipline to do that, and not go in and spike the ball and all, that wasn't about me. That was about team. That he sacrificed, individually to make a heads-up play. That was unbelievable, and again, he probably fought every instinct that he's had since he was 6 years old to do that.
All right, Ben, hang on with us for this next segment. And Billy, you two, I want you to stay on because Glenn Rogers is coming on. I've known Glenn for 14 years. Again, he played at the University of Memphis and 9 years of pro ball in the NFL and in the CFL, and is now coaching high school ball now in his 23rd year at MUS, my school, Christian Brothers High School's biggest rival. And I know him from coaching middle school track and field over the years. Like Ben, like Billy, high energy, positive, finds excuses to win. And I got to say, Ben, you talk about the Philadelphia fans. They are, we talk about Auburn fans, Florida fans, Bama, Georgia, Tennessee. What is it like to play in a city where they know everything about everything that you do? And there were memes coming up of Rocky Balboa last night. It's an incredible, I've been up there. It's an incredible city with like 50 colleges and universities in it.
You got to be thick-skinned. You better know what accountability is, and you better be authentic because that's what they are. Philadelphia fans, like most fans, they'll look at you and say, is that so-and-so? No, Philadelphia fans saying, yo, Donovan, as in Donovan McNabb. Like, what the hell going on, Donovan? Like, that's how they do you because, like you said, there's a lot of suffering. The Phillies, the 76ers, the Eagles. It's like being a Falcons fan, like all in one, because like I said, my mama always got her. I said, Mama, do you root for the Falcons? She goes, no. I said, Mama, I'm starting to question your decision making these days because I'm a Falcons. But I love Philadelphia fans because It's not malicious. It's just honest. Like, look, don't walk around here. If you're not going to the front of the line because you make millions of dollars, y'all lost this weekend. Get to the back of the line. I appreciate when the fans ingratiate themselves with you. They love you. But like family members, man, they talk about you in your face and behind your back.
Yeah, that's, I mean, and Billy, I like that take. What's it like in Atlanta in terms of accountability?
Zero. And the problem is, and I think it's the owner, Arthur Blank's philosophy from all his years at Home Depot undoubtedly is, treat the people great, give them every conceivable, thing to make them perform at their peak, and maybe it's counterproductive in a tough game like football. But I mean, the Falcons have got probably the best practice facility in the NFL up at Flowery Branch. When other teams have come in, when Atlanta's hosted the Super Bowl and they've used that facility, like, oh my God, this is Taj Mahal. They got, people doing pedicures for the players, during practice. I mean, it's too comforting. Every creature comfort is there. And the fan base, hero worships the players rather than hold them accountable. I think that, it's almost too nice. It's a country club kind of environment there. Maybe that's why, they don't, perform at crunch time, because the fan base, the city, the media are too collegial with them. The Atlanta media are friendly. They're not taking shots. Sometimes like the New York and Philadelphia media, I mean, they'll pull a thread, and go too deep and say things that are probably unwarranted. But, in Atlanta's opposite. The media are too soft on them and don't challenge them enough. So maybe a little bit of accountability, like Ben's talking about, would be exactly the medicine that the Falcons need, because, I mean, everybody wants them to win. And, it's just Atlanta's too nice of a city. If I'm a pro athlete living in Atlanta, it's heaven on earth. There's a lot to do. There's places to go. Everybody's going to treat you great and slap you on the back. Nobody's going to call you out. I mean, I would like to come back in the next life as a pro athlete in any sport and live in Atlanta. And that's why Shaq and Charles Barkley, all these guys make their home in Atlanta. Even if their playing days are over, it's a great place to live.
It is. I think it's the retirement mecca for NFL football players. Ben, am I correct?
It is Atlanta, and Nashville. And Nashville is because, like I said, you're on that Central Time. You get to have Atlanta. You get the skyscrapers. Nashville, you get the land. So you get Herb Street and all them. They out there with the land. But I agree with Billy. You know why they pat you on the back in Atlanta? Yeah, because they're not gonna see you in the playoffs. You're gonna be sitting right beside us, watching the games with us. Say, how was it like to play against? Oh, they was real good. We played them. It just 28-3 gonna haunt me forever, man. That is Atlanta. That's all you need to know. Only one team can mess that up. It is called the Atlanta Falcons, and they did it.
And that one. That was still. I watched it the other day on NFL Network. We talk about when you give up. I mean, I remember being with an Auburn player, talking to him November 8th of 2014. Auburn was playing Texas A&M that day, and that was in 2014. He'd been on the field at the national championship game. He was a defensive back for Auburn. It wasn't Chris Davis. And he said, yeah. And we were talking about it. And he just said at the Auburn Hotel and Conference Center, and he said, I wake up in the night thinking about Jameis Winston's score there at the end. We had Trey Mason, 37-yard touchdown, and it hurts. I mean, Ben and Billy, y'all know this. I mean, and Ben, you played in the NFL to work that hard, to be that close. But the three things you got to have: responsibility, authority, and accountability. Man, I love that about Philadelphia. And I guarantee you, before he leaves, Jalen Hurts is going to have a Philly cheesesteak named after him. Something special. What do you think? I mean, and Glenn Rodgers.
You would think so. I mean, Philadelphia is the city for statues. I mean, you got fictitious characters like Rocky with a statue. You got fictitious characters like Nick Foles with a statue. I think your boy Jalen saying, hey man, if Nick can get a statue, I can get a statue in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Glenn Rodgers is on with us right now. Like I said, played at the University of Memphis, TFL Tiger for life, Southside Scrapper, his dad, 18 years coached down there, Hall of Famer, 9 years of pro football now out at MUS. And Glenn up here with Billy Roberts over in Atlanta. Went to Auburn with me, and sports fanatic. And Ben Troupe, Gator All-American, played in the NFL for 5 years. And we're talking about this Super Bowl. So talk about getting some energy, man. We didn't get Led Zeppelin together yet, but we got this band together. This is going to be some high energy and some positive comments. And Ben, you think I get jacked up and bouncing off the wall drinking coffee? Glenn Rogers might be the most positive and optimistic and just guy that you would want to run through a brick wall and say, Coach, what do you want me to do next for him? But Coach, how you doing?
Good morning, guys. How you guys doing? A wonderful Super Bowl last night, and just excited to talk some football.
Yeah, hang on 1 second. Didn't see the break. We're going to take a quick break and come back, and we're ready to hear what you got to say on this Super Bowl wrap-up Monday after this. All right, Coach. Glenn, you were on a roll talking about the Super Bowl. It was exciting. I had picked the Eagles to win 34-31. Didn't get it right, but I was really excited, too, about those two Memphis Tigers, Kenneth Gainwell and Jake Elliott. And we were talking about Kenny Gainwell out of Yazoo City, Mississippi. You know, what was he ranked? The 124th ranked running back in America, had over 1,400 yards as a freshman for the Tigers. That would have been really cool, but I think both of those guys have got long careers ahead of them. But, your thoughts on that game, and we'll get back into this round table.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys, congratulations to Kenny Gainwell and also, our kicker from Memphis, two Memphis guys in the Super Bowl. But I tell you, the most disappointing thing to me, guys, yesterday was the inability of the Eagles to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes, who had a high ankle sprain. And to me, that was probably the most disappointing thing. You know, with the Eagles defense playing as well as it played all year, the inability to them to get to him and the inability for them to guard Jason Kelce, when we know everybody on the planet know that Jason Kelce is going to get the football. And so the inability of them to guard him and get pressure on Mahomes really was disappointing yesterday. I thought that was probably the most disappointing thing I saw yesterday.
Ben?
Yeah, I agree. I say this all the time. People get mad at me. Yes, I'm biased because I played the same position as Travis Kelce. I think what Travis Kelce does in his position is better than what Patrick Mahomes does in his because he's 6'5", he has 87 on his chest. He's going to throw it to him. I guarantee you they roommates. I guarantee you they hang out in the offseason. You don't put that DB in a position like that. The DB got jammed by the tight end. I'm going to jam him. This guy right here. The DB is so out of phase that he don't even realize, he ran an out. No, he ran an out and up. That's a touchdown. Now, I don't know why they got away from Kelce. But I'm like, we're going to have a tight end win the Super Bowl MVP. But listen, if there's blood in the water, you attack. You got a wounded man named Patrick Mahomes. So let's face it, man.
Yes.
Every dead body in America loves Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is not known for his physique, right? And he's out there running away from Reddick and company. Like, dude, I don't know how fast Mahomes is, but on that scramble, he put his best Jalen Hurts impression on. And I'm like, if you let a quarterback sit in the pocket, he gonna pick you apart. You let Patrick Mahomes sit back there, hey man, it's gonna be a long day. That's not a recipe for success. And I know it's gonna be hard to watch that tape, but that defense is too good to not. He didn't get touched all night. That it's gonna be hard for those guys to watch that tape for the Super Bowl.
And the one time they touched him, they hurt him. The one time they got to him on the scramble, right before the half, he re-sprained his ankle. And so what was disappointing is, like you said, the inability to get pressure on him. He's a wounded duck. You smell blood in the water as a defensive guy. Let's attack, and guard. The one safeguard he got is Travis Kelce. Double that guy. He's not going to beat me. Somebody else is going to have to beat me today.
Yeah. Billy, that bounced at me. Now, of course, Ben, Glenn was a defensive back when he played pro football. So he's speaking from the heart. But,
Yeah.
Billy, you look at that time, the one time they did get to Mahomes' ankle right before the end of the half, boy, was he lucky that they had a few more minutes left and then a 30-minute halftime show and then the timeouts coming out. So he probably had close to 40 minutes to recover. That was probably the biggest, what we thought would be turning point in the game, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he had time to go in and get treatment and whatever they had to rub on that, pain medicine or whatever they had to make him better. But yeah, I mean, that was a defensive collapse by a dominant defense. All season they've been doing it, and in the moment there, they didn't step up. They didn't do what they needed to do, and maybe that's just a great player overcoming, his own injury. Obviously they had a game plan, for Kelce and him. They know who the guys are that are going to be scoring the points. So it could be he just rose above whatever plan they had for him because he's a superstar, and that's what the great guys do.
Yeah.
It's funny to me too, because I mean, just a couple weeks ago with Brady announcing his retirement, everybody's like unquestioned greatest of all time. Nobody's going to break his records. And here's Mahomes, young guy, already halfway there, basically. I mean, he'll end up eclipsing Brady, as crazy as that sounds. He'll be that guy. He could win 4 more Super Bowls easily. Mahomes might be the greatest. He'll be like a LeBron or a Tiger Woods. I mean, he could be that guy because he's young enough to, and he's got. Reed says he's coming back next year. Here's a guy that's won Super Bowls both places, Philadelphia and Kansas City. You got a great coach, and clearly those were some halftime adjustments that Kansas City went and did, because they were down at halftime and looked like Philadelphia was going to roll them, and all of a sudden here they come, in the second half. So great halftime adjustments. That was coaching. That was a great player, in the moment, becoming a great player, remembering that he's great, and ankle be damned, I'm going to find a way to win. I mean, it was impressive to me.
Yeah. I mean, you think about that, Glenn, you got to love that if you're a coach, a guy being that tough, he's not soft, and he found excuses to win when, had he gone down with an ankle injury, who's their backup?
Yeah, I want to say backup was he's a veteran guy, Chad Hickey, But here's my thoughts on that, because I'm a defensive guy, and we've all played sports. When you got a wounded duck, when you smell blood in the water, you got to go after it. And what was disappointing to me is, as great as Patrick Mahomes is, his jersey never got dirty but one time. I mean, one time he hit the ground on the scramble. So I don't know why they didn't get more pressure on him. I don't know why they didn't draw up some stunts to get guys open, to blitz him more. They really didn't blitz him at all. They tried to rely on 4-man pressure. And when you got 4-man pressure, and Patrick Mahomes had all his offensive line healthy. And when you got 4-man pressure and you got a healthy offensive line, the last time I checked, 5 can always block 4 most of the time. And so most of the time they got blocked.
Yep.
And so they brought no stunts. They brought no pressure. They didn't agitate him or get him uncomfortable. And we all know, guys, I don't know any quarterback in America that likes to get hit. And he didn't get hit hardly at all yesterday. So that was real disappointing to me, because that Philadelphia defense is very good, and they didn't make him uncomfortable at all yesterday. And that was to me, that was the biggest disappointment in the game.
Ben, you can't argue with that, or can you?
You can't. I mean, the thing about football is we make things hard. You don't got to get the quarterback. You don't got to sack the quarterback, but you got to hit him. Like quarterback. Exactly. You just got to hit him. Like it's you saying to yourself, look, man. If I'm a boxer and I realize, oh man, his torso ain't as strong as I thought, I'm going to the body because I'm trying to get in the lowest hand so I can hit him. Last night, Patrick Mahomes went home and told his wife, I don't know what they was doing. What they hit me up like, dude, I get hit more in a regular season game. The Super Bowl is supposed to be this. You're supposed to go to the defensive coordinator and say, "Did you call everything we got?" And when he goes, "No, I can't live with that." You're supposed to call. If we gonna lose, I can deal with losing if we emptied out the tank. But we got so much left in the tank because you saying, "Well, he could hurt us." And I'd rather listen. You got to risk. You got to risk losing to win games. That's football. I got to risk losing to win. I mean, Patrick Mahomes running around yesterday. I said, "Dude, if Patrick Mahomes ain't getting sacked and he's outside the pocket, you lucky they only score what they scored." Because I'm telling you, him being down, if Kansas City is up 10 going to the half, get the ball, that's a total different game. They better be lucky they was down 10. But yeah, I agree with Glenn. And I'm an offensive guy. I couldn't live with the fact that why are we not scheming it up? Like, what is going on? It's like I said, man, it's gonna be hard to watch that. You got Bradbury and Darius Slay. You got all pro cornerbacks. You got Johnson Garner-Johnson, who led the league in set picks. You got Hassan Reddick. You got Fletcher Cox, Graham. I mean, you got
Ndamukong Suh,
who was on the couch for about 10 weeks. He's healthy. I don't understand that, man. That's the part I'll never understand. Jalen Hurts gave you 30-something points with a fumble, and you lost. That's hard to live with, man. Hard to live with.
And you know this, Ben, as an offensive guy, you said this to yourself on offense. If we can put 30 points on the board with the defense we got, we're not going to lose the game. And so it's like Billy said, Superman put on his cape yesterday. But guess what? Superman never got the kryptonite. He never got hit. He never got touched. The one time they touched him, he showed you that his ankle was still bothering him. And they didn't get to him the rest of the night. And I like you said, Ben, if the D coordinator did not empty the tank, I got a big question mark. Why didn't you empty the tank, go out with all guns blazing? They didn't do that yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, Billy, you're right. Ben and Glenn are dead on. You know, why didn't you empty the tank? I mean, you got to give everything that you got. You got to show. What are you waiting on?
Sometimes people in a pressure situation, and say the defense coordinator choked. You play not to lose rather than play to win.
Yeah.
And you usually lose when you do that.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if you're confident and guns blazing, you're going to leave it all out there, all the cliches we can come up with, then you play to win and be fearless. And if you're tentative and you play not to lose, that's how football players get hurt too. You've heard it for years. Like if you get out on the field and you're a little scared and you're tentative rather than just flying around and being fearless, you're more likely to get hurt than if you just pin your ears back and go for it, right? I mean, when football, you gotta just play full speed. You can't play at half speed. And
absolutely,
and the defense coordinator was timid in playing not to lose. Maybe counting on his defense to bend but not break, whatever. But they were too good a defense to have a bend not break kind of philosophy. And they got burned up in that game in the second half.
I mean, it'd be fun to see what the grades are when they come out. How many quarterback pressures, how many quarterback curries did you get? I mean, it doesn't matter. Bottom line is going into the game, Jerry Kirby told us on the show Friday, one of our NFL fanatics, he said teams wearing white jerseys are 36-20. They're now 37-20. And I don't know what the stat is on teams whose quarterback ends the game without any dirt on his jersey is. I bet that's about 95% winning.
Yeah. And I mean,
that's a good line commercial.
We scratched our head all night. Like, why aren't they getting pressure on this guy and he's wounded? And, Billy said it best. He put on the cape. Superman put on the cape, and I think the Eagles D coordinator, to me, got gun shy when he did that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, guys, nobody is advocating that you do anything bad, but as a competitor, whether it's in sports or in business, I mean, if you own a pizza joint on one corner and across the street is your fiercest rival, and that guy's going through tough times, and you can buy him at 50 cents on the dollar, you're going to do it. The greatest investor of all time, Sir John Templeton, from Manchester, Tennessee, Templeton Global Funds, once said, "Don't tell me where there's parades and happiness and everybody's eating dinner together at 6. Tell me where there's blood in the streets. That's where I'm going to go buy. There's value there." You got to have that mentality. Again, I mean, Glenn, you coach it in high school. Y'all, you and Ben have played at the highest level. Between the two of you, my math here, my gazendas, 9 plus 14, naught plus naught. That's 14 years of professional football experience that both of y'all have. And both of you are fierce advocates of, you got blood in the water, you got to go after it. And Ben, I bet the Eagles defensive staff has got to be kicking themselves going, man, what if we'd have pressured, 30% more?
Yeah, and the pain of what if is rough. I can't live with what if now. And I don't even play sports anymore. I would never ever blame a coach for what a player controls the field. We control what goes out there. But a coach's job is to give us a shot when we out there. Dude, you supposed to come. We can't make it up out there. This ain't high school to where we can just out athlete people. This ain't college to where we got the best recruits. No, man, you supposed to call it. And think about this. As a player, I'm waiting on you to call it. And you don't call it. You get to the sideline like, I've never understood. All you're doing is making the decision. Just call it. Just call the play. Because when you don't, the worst thing a coach can tell a player is my bad, man. I can't hear that, man. This is the last game. Ain't no next week. Call it. Because what happens is you failed me as a coach when you didn't call it. You failed me. I mean, Nick Foles goes to the sideline of the last Super Bowl and said, let's run Philly. I'm going to run a trick play in the Super Bowl. And guess what? They ran it, and they did it. Now everybody trying to do it. All I'm saying is, as a player, if you called it and we lost, man, I love you, coach. But if you didn't call it and we lost, see, I'm going to say the right thing because I'm a pro. But behind the scenes, I'm dirt cussing you because I'm like, bro, you can't do that. It's the coach's job to unleash me on Sundays. That's what I'm working for Monday through Saturday. And we get out there, and we're going to go 4 against 5 against Patrick Mahomes. Okay. All right.
And you know what else too? And you know what else too is you saw the D coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, Spagnuolo. You saw him pressuring Hurts. They brought some guys that were untouched to get him out the pocket. They made him scramble to his left a lot, which they saw. Anytime he runs left on the run, he's not as accurate. So you saw Kansas City bringing pressure at times. They made Jalen Hurts uncomfortable. They got a couple of punts, which they deemed like, we're not going to shut this offense down. But if we can make them punt a couple of times and maybe create a turnover too, we're going to give ourselves a chance to win. And that's what Kansas City did. They got a turnover. They caused Philly to punt a couple of times. And guess what? They got a big punt return on the end, and they won the ball game. And so Spagnuolo did the things necessary as a D coordinator to make Jalen Hurts uncomfortable a couple of times by bringing pressure, bringing the guy unblocked, and making him run for his life at times.
Yeah. Billy, take us into the break, and we come back after the break. We got a few more minutes with Ben. I know he's got to get on after the next hour, and Glenn as well. But this is great conversation. You look at it as a fan like I am. Your competitive juices, if you have blood in your veins, are golly, we were so close. But I think the Eagles are going to be back. I certainly think the Chiefs are going to be back. These guys, they've got the right personnel on the teams. I think that's a huge part of it. But I'm with Ben. And Michael Jordan said it. You're going to miss 1,000% of the shots you never take.
Absolutely. And I mean, it could be that the coaches, knew Mahomes was hurt. A high ankle sprain's a tough injury. A lot of guys say that takes half a season or more to come back from. It's one of the worst injuries you can get. And maybe they thought he's not capable of running the ball. So we'll game plan as if he's going to stay in the pocket and just pick us up, or try to pick us apart and throw the ball. And he shocked them maybe when he could run around and be more mobile. It could be, and they had no plan for that. I mean, they probably were overconfident game planning, thinking he's not going to be moving around like he normally does. We're going to see him as a one-dimensional guy and create a defensive plan around that. That could be, that could be what happened when they kind of got timid. They're like, oh crap, he can run 24 yards and he's outrunning guys.
Hold that thought, Billy. We're going to take a quick break. Be back a few more minutes talking Ben Troupe, Glenn Rogers, Billy Roberts on Super Bowl Sunday wrap-up.
From Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, let's wrap it up here now. A few more minutes before we get in the next hour with Billy Roberts, Rob Browne, Glenn, and Ben. Ben and Glenn. This is awesome stuff on the Super Bowl. Billy, great take going into the break. Glenn, before we go, you talk about that. This is stuff that you're taught early on in football. But have you ever seen a case where a running back, like the Chiefs last night, stops short of going into the end zone? A memory of a lifetime. I scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl. That is incredible self-control and discipline. Was somebody on the sidelines telling him that, or did they tell him that in the huddle?
Well, I tell you, Andy Reid, we all know he's a Hall of Fame coach. Yeah. He's an excellent game planner. And then you got Patrick Mahomes out there, who's an extension of Andy Reid on the football field. So I guarantee you, during those timeouts, they went over the scenarios. Hey, if you break free, they only got 2 timeouts. They just used one. So if you break free, stop short of the goal line. Do not score, because the best thing, the worst thing Kansas City could have did last night was score early to give Philly some time on the clock. So I guarantee Andy Reid told that to Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes reiterated in the huddle. That guy broke free. Oh, it popped in his mind. Don't score. So he stopped. They had to call another timeout. Clock ran out. And so, to me, that's good coaching. Like Billy said, the halftime adjustments Andy Reid and his staff made at halftime were very impressive. Kelsey didn't get hit all night. They didn't bang on him. Ben knows as a tight end, when you're in the trenches as a tight end, or when you either detach from the formation, the worst thing you can do to a tight end or any receiver is jam him all the time and disrupt his patterns. They didn't do that all night. Travis Kelsey ran free all night without getting banged and getting touched. And so I just don't understand Philadelphia's game plan, to me, with Kelsey. He's the most dangerous guy on the field. Somebody should have been banging him all night. They should have mixed up how they were going to cover him so they wouldn't give Kansas City a steady dose of the same thing. But it baffled me with the game plan.
Ben, this is great take, and I'm wondering what's going to happen with the defensive coordinator for the Eagles. I mean, he got him to the Super Bowl, but I'm sure he's going to be asked a lot of tough questions this week.
As well he should. I mean, they pay you to win the big games. They don't pay you to win some games. You got to call it in the big games. I mean, we ain't even talking about Eric Bieniemy, who still doesn't have a head coaching job, and he's won all these, been to 3 Super Bowls, won 2 of them, been to countless AFC Championship games. It's the game within the game. You got to win the game within the game. I mean, I know everybody going to go back to the Bradbury, Juju Smith-Schuster stuff. Bradbury panicked. If a DB panics, that is the worst place to be. Don't panic. Everybody knows. Listen, man, if the guy runs a slant, man, he's running to your help. Don't jump inside. Once he jumps inside, if he goes back out, you got to pull him. Well, guess what? It's only you and him on that side. The ref is looking at 2 guys. Patrick Mahomes, Mr. State Farm, I'm going to call it. Now, he could have not called it, but Bradbury is too smart of a player. He's too diligent of a player. Don't panic. DB's got to have the shortest memories in football.
Absolutely.
Big play, let it go. Bad play, let it go. The problem is that was the play. They showed Bradbury on the sideline, man. Obviously, I don't want nobody to be known for one play, but Glenn knows this. DBs have the hardest job. I am out here on an island with the best athlete on the field. All I got is my feet and my safety. Well, he didn't have the safety on that play. I don't know what Chauncey was on that play, but you don't do that. Juju Smith is not the greatest receiver, but you give a receiver the whole left side. Oh, he can get it. I can get over that if I got the whole left side. But that once again, I don't know what the defensive game plan was, but something you said, Billy. Once I realized that Patrick Mahomes can run, I got to adjust.
Yeah.
He can run on a bad
Yeah.
wheel. The worst game plan is one that cannot be adjusted. That's how you lose. And like I said, the pain of what if, that lasts forever, people. Because we say that the Eagles don't get back. Well, they had 3 teams in that division to make the playoffs. So don't think that the NFC going to just, all right, Jalen, hope to see you guys in next year. You may never go back. There are guys that never make the playoffs. Yeah. So think you're going back to the Super Bowl? That's the rarest of the rare. I hope they go back, man. But sometimes your best effort might not help you win the game, but you may never be on the big stage again. I hope that's not the case.
Yeah.
And think about this. Yeah, go ahead, Billy.
I was going to say, you know, in the NFC Championship, you know, Purdy, obviously his elbow was shot. He couldn't throw the ball, and all he could do was hand off, you know, and so he became one-dimensional. Clearly, that he wasn't going to be able to pass, you know, and they were done at that point, you know, the Niners were. So, you know, Mahomes must have shocked them with his ability to run as well as he was running. They probably thought he had a really bad injury, and I mean, sure, it was horrible, and, you know, it hurts. But, man, that dude just had adrenaline pumping and just ignored it. I mean, you know, like you said, Ben, earlier before Glenn joined, he's got the whole offseason to recuperate, and he laid it on the line last night. I love it.
And I guarantee you some shots of Novocaine helped him out a lot in that treatment. But I think
that doctor, Glenn, the doctor was like this. Listen, man, no lines, no waiting. Come on, listen. Glenn know how it is. Listen, just take all the pressure off this side. We got you. For those of you who've never had a cortisone shot, let me just tell y'all something. There's feeling good and there is feeling great. I don't know what that thing is, but boy, you don't feel anything. I mean, that boy went from limping running in to sprinting coming out. Oh, we know what they gave. Those trainers had one thing to do. If 15 don't run back out there on this field, we don't have a job. He was coming back. The trainers knew what the assignment was. They knew.
And you know what? Here's the thing about it too, Rob and fellas.
Yeah.
You think about this here. Dan Marino went to a Super Bowl his rookie year and never got back.
Yeah.
So it's no guarantee you're going to get back. Like Ben said, you got to seize the moment. They don't pay you to win games. They pay you to win the big game. And so it's no guarantee that Philly's going to get back. Because like Ben said earlier, there's 4 teams in that division all made the playoffs. So there's no guarantee that Philly's going to get back back to the pinnacle, because they do have guys, free agency, guys leave and go other places, but hopefully they can keep the core group together and add other pieces, but there's no guarantee they're going to get back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, it's just incredible. Guys, I wish we got to do this again with Glenn and Ben. This is awesome because I'm sitting here right now. I'm learning so much, and if you're and we'll send this out. This show goes out all over the place, and but what the takeaway from Ben and Glenn, having played 14 years of pro football between the two of them, is they pay you to win the big one. That's what you really get paid for. And I like those trainers. If 15 doesn't go back out on that field, we don't have a job. So I love it. Ben, tell people real quick how they can follow you. Love having you on. And you need to come up sometime, Ben, to Memphis and go out there to MUS. I know you're a Gator and Ben's a Memphis Tiger, but you ought to see what he does. They hadn't been doing spring practice in MUS since 2001, and y'all have won, 4 state championships and 4 or 5 runner-ups. You have those guys.
We played the game 9 times. 4 times we won, 5 times runner-up.
That's pretty damn impressive with no spring practice. What do you think about that, Big Ben?
Hey, listen, I'm from Swainsboro, Georgia. My cousin Dante Browne went to Memphis, man. I mean, when I was in Nashville, the only reason why I never went to Memphis as much, I said, dude, Memphis 5 hours away in the same state. I want to go, but that's a 10-hour drive. I like the barbecue down there, man. But at the end of the day, I got to get back up there just to meet, Glenn in person. You can always follow me on all social media sites at Ben Troupe 84. And I always go to bentroop84.com. My book, Uncommon Unfinished, is always available, man. I appreciate everybody that's purchased the book. And if you have purchased, I appreciate the kind words.
Hey, listen, and Glenn, you ought to get him to come up and speak sometime at MUS. I was over at MUS Thursday night at Hyde Chapel for the premiere from my friend Norman Jetmanson's documentary, Sewanee 1899 Unraveled.
That's right. I was there as well.
Yeah, that was a really cool. I got there late, and then I was talking to Norman afterwards. But that was an incredible night out there. But I was
Awesome.
saying this, it's a CBHS, man. Y'all do a hell of a job over there. 9 times with no spring practice. Coaches, are you listening?
That's right. Keep everybody healthy in the spring. Keep guys participating in other sports. Don't pull them out of other sports. And when you got a lot of guys playing multiple sports, and Ben know this, and you all know this, being coaches and being competitors as well. When you got guys doing other sports in high school, allow them to do it, because we know when you graduate and go to college and have the opportunity to play college football, there's no such thing as playing another sport unless you're Bo Jackson or Deion Sanders or Charlie Ward, somebody special. So enjoy the moment in high school, play it all, and then don't be selfish, coaches, with your athletes in high school. Let them play everything they can play.
All right, we're doing this again next week. Glenn and Ben, kick off your Monday morning. No sleepy heads here. Y'all have a great week, okay?
You too. Glad to meet you guys. Enjoy your week.
Glad to meet you.
All right, you too.
Night, Glenn.
Thank you so much. We got a few more minutes with Billy Roberts, and now Yancy Porter checks in from down in Oxford, Mississippi. Rebel Yell Hotline tonight, 6 to 7 p.m. Sports 56 WHBQ and Super Talk Mississippi. Man, I was learning a lot right there, Yancy, from Glenn Rogers, from of course Memphis Tiger, and 9 years of pro football, coaches at MUS now, and of course Gator All-American and NFL guy Ben Troupe. Basically, they don't pay you to win the games. They pay you to win the big game, the Super Bowl. That was a heck of a game last night. Get your takeaway on it, and let's talk some Ole Miss Rebels, football, basketball, baseball, whatever is on your great mind.
Yeah, you hate to see the game end the way that it did. By the way, I picked KC 34-31, so I almost hit that sucker on the head. It just felt like it was KC's year, with the refs as well. I mean, let's be honest there. That they won in a debatable terms against both Cincinnati and Philadelphia there. But regardless, Mahomes is just unbelievable. Philadelphia, I thought Jalen played his best game of his career. You just think about where he came from at Alabama to now. Who would have thunk? I mean, he was a below average quarterback as far as passing the ball. He was a good quarterback at Alabama and later there at Oklahoma, but nobody would ever thought he would have been able to pass the ball like he does now. Just kudos. It just goes to show that, you put in a lot of hard work. You don't have to stay the same. But just because in college, your freshman or sophomore year, you're not a great passer, doesn't mean you can't become one. So I think he's a great example. Jalen Hurts for all young players out there.
Well, he is. And Billy, what Yancy just said, everybody ought to look at what Jalen Hurts does. You can learn a lot from him about sports, about your life. What's not to like about him? I don't care who you're a fan of.
Well, certainly. I mean, here's a guy that has every right in the world to give everybody a middle finger. He's been told for years what he is not, what he can't do, what his limitations are. And he's grown and developed and overcome and believed in himself. I mean, those are attributes for success in any field, any profession. There's a lot to learn there, from a middle-aged businessman to a 14-year-old, junior high athlete. Anybody can learn from his example. I mean, he's an inspiration and just a monument to being a hard-nosed guy that isn't going to listen to the naysayers. I wished I was more like that. We all should.
Well, it's easy, Yancy. I don't care what sport it is. When things don't go your way, to throw a fit, and then you become just a problem in the locker room, and you take your team down. But yeah, that was a heck of a game last night. And you look at it now with, in your case, Ole Miss. Look last year in baseball when things weren't going well. I mean, let's be honest. People were already buying flowers and trying to decide what color suit they were going to bury Mike Bianco in. And I heard the hammering in the background of the pine box. And what did he do? I'll tell you, you were the one that was saying, hey, you predicted it. Do you remember what you said in the middle of all the rain and the negativity? You said, I think this team, they're going to turn it on late. And by God, that's what happened.
Well, it also helped, and that was the winningest group of seniors ever in Ole Miss history. So I didn't go too much out on the limb there. They had, been there, done that. Things they'd gone through a rough patch, really, with the starting rotation. And once I saw that dilution really settled in there when they were 7-14 against Missouri there in the SEC play, I knew that what the offense could do. I knew what the rest of the staff could do, and things just really took off from there. So, sometimes in college baseball, especially, it's all about finding that rotation. What you start with at the beginning of SEC play is not exactly what you're always going to end up with when it becomes tournament time.
Yeah, and you think about the number of times that the coaches are counted out. Can you imagine how those players, in the case of Ole Miss for the national championship, were thinking, here we are. How many? They were number one early in the season.
Yep.
And then
18-2.
Yeah, and just on top of the world. And then that Tennessee series, but they didn't fall apart. It's a long season, regardless of the sport. You better be mentally tough, physically fit, and morally straight. You have got no chance to make it. If you're not. Because if you don't have all three of those, I don't know if any of y'all are watching on Fox TV, that weekly TV show called Special Forces. Holy cow. I think it's day 8 coming up tonight or tomorrow night, whenever it is. They've got a Marine Recon, Navy SEAL, and a British SAS warrior out there. And they've got Mike Piazza, Dwight Howard, Olympic gold medal soccer player, some girl from The Bachelor, another NFL wide receiver that's won a Super Bowl. Holy cow. You talk about being mentally tough. You got to be. And Billy, I know you've got to check out and get on a call here in a minute, but your takeaway from this conversation, because it's been one of the best.
Yeah, I mean, again, so that's why we like sports. We watch guys that are capable of performing under the intense spotlight when a lot of people would wilt. I mean, those guys are on that stage for a reason. There's no accidents at that level. Everybody's a good athlete. Everybody can run fast. Everybody has got superhuman, trainers and, to get them ready for that moment. But, they've got to have the will to win. They got to overcome an injury. I mean, there's so many life lessons that you can take away from what we saw on that game last night. It was pretty impressive. But, the main thing, that people can take away is tune out the naysayers and just do what you're capable of doing. And, and don't be intimidated by the moment. I mean, I don't know. There's always 80 or 90 million people watching a game like that. And, those guys didn't seem fazed by any of that stuff. And in a weird way, with Hurts being the quarterback at Alabama and Oklahoma, you made that point earlier, Bob. What better preparation is there to be an NFL quarterback in the future than to be the quarterback at Alabama? That's a pretty good approximation of what life as an NFL quarterback is going to be. The scrutiny from the media and the fan base, everything you do is going to be documented. I mean, Jalen Hurts had all the preparation in the world to handle that glare and spotlight of being in the NFL. Yeah. And that's why he can do what he's doing.
Yeah. A great commentary. And look, you are the Oracle of LaGrange. I would say Atlanta or Brookhaven, but Oracle of LaGrange. Billy Roberts. We'll be right back with Yancy Porter after this on Sidelines. Second hour is on top of us right after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Yancy Porter, let's talk now about Ole Miss getting ready. A basketball season, Rebels are 2-10 in the SEC, 10-15 overall. Unfortunate, they can't shoot. They ain't the only team that can't shoot. We are seeing some really bad basketball. You go back and you look at Tennessee, the harbinger of things to come. It's a big word from Word Wealth, I remember. Thank you, Brother Stephen. But you go back to that Auburn-Tennessee game, 46-43, 88 missed shots, 12 missed free throws. That was the lowest scoring game between two Associated Press ranked teams ever. Then they follow that up with losing at the buzzer to Vanderbilt in Nashville, which typically for Tennessee is almost a home game. In football, it is. In basketball, close. Then they lose a buzzer beater to Missouri. They're struggling. I don't know who is, other than Alabama, there's not a team that I think can get to the Final Four, at least the Elite Eight. What's your take on this league for basketball? Because Kermit Davis didn't just forget how to coach, but he doesn't have the shooters. And again, he's not the only guy out there. And how are we going to fix this problem short of making it mandatory to spend 2 hours a day shooting free throws or practicing on your jump shots?
Well, you better change your offense, right? If you can't shoot the ball well, then you're not the half court motion offense is not going to fit you well, right? So you got to get it up and down. You got to get a bunch of jump baskets. You got to put the ball up against the glass. You got to get some offensive rebounds and get some tip ins and create easy baskets off your defense. That's how you get away with not being a great shooting team. I mean, Tennessee, you're giving examples here, but this has been Rick Barnes' motto, right? The whole time he's been at Tennessee is all about defense with him. And this team falls in line with the last 2 or 3 years, 2 seasons he's had there at Tennessee. So really nothing's changed there. You say that nobody has the ammunition to get to the Final Four, Elite Eight, but all you got to do is get on the high street. Let's look at Auburn as an example. What was that 2 or 3 years ago there when they went on the run there to the Elite Eight, and nobody expected that team to. So, yes, I mean, on the surface, it looks like Alabama is really the only team there that belongs in that group, but that's what makes the NCAA tournament so fascinating.
Well, that's a good point. And that Auburn team in 2018 won the SEC regular season championship. 2019 gets to the Final Four. They won the SEC tournament championship and went deep to the Final Four. You're right. And I think, look at the SEC standings. I mean, golly, you've got Alabama sitting there at 11-0. Maybe the first or second time they've ever done. 12-0 in the conference. A&M's at 10-2, Tennessee at 8-4, Missouri at 7-5, Auburn 7-5, Kentucky 7-5, Arkansas 6-6, Vanderbilt 6-6, Florida 6-6, Mississippi State 5-7, Georgia 5-7, Ole Miss 2-10, pulling up the rear along with South Carolina 2-10, and then LSU at 1-11. Is the good, the bad, and the ugly? I say the great, the mediocre, and the atrocious. I mean, it's a new spaghetti Western, man. But I mean, there's just some, watching SEC basketball this year is like watching, my 600-pound life. It's tough. I mean, I just think the SEC, we got a lot of great athletes that can just on the basketball court just really wow you. But fundamentally, look at the Big Ten and look at the slowdown game they play in the ACC now. You watch Virginia, but who's the highest ranked team in the ACC? It's tough, right? So I don't know. We're going to see what happens. Again, Arkansas has been slow to start the last few years. They've been to the Elite Eight 2 years in a row. We'll see what happens. But let's talk some Ole Miss football. Ole Miss in the portal, Lane Kiffin. He's a portal supporter is a genius. He's great at finding guys in there. They're getting ready. How far out from spring practice beginning are they? And certainly they're doing mat drills and all that stuff right now to get ready. But let's talk about some changes that you want to see when they take to the practice field.
Yeah, first of all, how is the new offensive line coach there from NC State? How's he going to mesh? Is their pass pro set going to improve? They really struggled in that area as much as they thrived in running the ball. They struggle pass blocking, and what are we going to see from there? Secondary wise, they lose 3 out of their top 4 corners to the portal. You give it, then you take it, and it definitely, if there was one area it hurt Ole Miss in the portal, it was the defensive backs. But you changed your safety coach, your corners coach, your defensive coordinator, so naturally that DB class or the DB group there had a little unsettled situation there. So in the portal area, that's when you're going to see guys take off to other schools. How are the new guys going to be able to mesh in? Because those were some good players. So they lost David Gabusin there, that lost there to Ohio State. They thought was going to be a potential first-round pick there. You had Miles Battle, that was a senior there, that 2-year starter, there at cornerback, 6'3" corner, lost to Utah there. So, and then Kendrick Breedlove lost to Deion Sanders, who they thought was emerging as a star corner. So, that's going to be really an area of interest there. And then, who is going to give Judkins some relief there? Now, Mascaro is not coming in until May, the high school running back they sent out of Texas. Will Bentley be able to kind of get back to the preseason form he had last year before he broke his wrist in game 2 there, where he missed the next 8 games? And that really, it was the Zach Evans show there with Judkins. But, can Bentley be that valid candidate to be able to, allow Judkins to get some rest? So, and then at wide receiver there, I think that's another one. You lose your 2 big guns there and Mingo and Heath. You pick up, Marshall and the transfer from Louisiana Tech. It's going to be, a lot. Really, there's a lot of storylines. Most of the time, spring practice is very boring. Let's admit it. There's a couple stories, but really, you can go on down the line outside of defensive line and really the offensive line group. There's so much to turn over, so many storylines. So it will be an interesting spring there for the Rebels.
Yeah, it will be. And spring practice is, and on the college level, you're looking to install, especially with the new offensive line coach. Man, you don't get that right, everything else offensively might never get off the ground, right?
Yeah. Look, that's always where it starts, right? The line of scrimmage is always where things are going to start. So, luckily for Ole Miss, we talked about this last time I was on. They returned 4 out of their top 5. 7 out of their 8 rotation guys there on the offensive line. And then obviously they're on the defensive line that they returned 10 out of their 12 rotation guys on the defensive line. So a lot of experience coming back there for Ole Miss there on the line of scrimmage. And that always helps.
Well, you think about what is going on right now in college with the portal. We have that window December 5th to like mid-January. Next one's coming up in May, basically when people wrap up their school year. So they go through spring practice and all. Do you expect a lot of movement? I think you mentioned Ole Miss had 25 guys that had entered the portal. Last count, there were 12 of them that still hadn't been picked up. And I'm seeing a trend since October 15th of 2018, a little over 4 years since the portal became the rule of the land, the law of the land. About almost 50% of these guys aren't getting picked up. Now, some of them go in the portal and they can come back. Now, remember, and you know this, I know it, but people that don't, once you enter the portal, your school where you currently are on scholarship, if you are, is no longer bound to honor that scholarship if you come back. Now, if you do come back and you were on good terms, good standings, typically they'll take you back. But any change there, and what do you think will happen with Ole Miss in May in the portal?
Well, that's a great question. There's 10 guys that went in the portal out of that 25 that did not have spots. Now, 4 of them have gotten spots. 3 to Arkansas State. Very late additions there in the last 7-10 days. So that's down to 6, and then 2 of them had a spot regardless. But there's 4 guys in that portal from Ole Miss, and I haven't gotten clarification. Are they going to hold on to their spot at Ole Miss, or do they get let go? And I don't know. Maybe have to go down to D2. Not sure. We'll see. I think there were 2 or 3 guys in that position last year. Lane took them back on the team. Will he be gracious enough to continue to do that in the future? I'm not sure.
Well, I'm just looking at what's going on the offensive line. Ole Miss has 4 of their 5 starters back. Jake Thornton, and obviously he's gone on to Auburn, but Lane Kiffin, it seems to me that what he's great at doing is fixing problems. Now, I think he's always going to be mentioned as a coaching candidate for jobs, but that contract now over $9 million, he wants for nothing. His kids let it be known they love being in Oxford. What could happen if Lane Kiffin is dialed in, absolutely myopic, like a sniper, on taking Ole Miss and breaking through the ceiling that's kept them from getting to Atlanta? They've been close. A number of things happen. That's just the way it is. I mean, Cowboys hadn't been to the Super Bowl in 30 years. But what do you see are a couple of things that could happen now with his total attention?
Well, I think one thing that can happen and is happening, the playoffs are expanding from 4 to 12 teams, right? So I think that really changes the dynamics, not only for Ole Miss, but for a lot of schools. When you factor in Alabama, Georgia usually takes 2, Ohio State 3, Clemson 4, and then maybe one of those teams are off, like Alabama this year, or Clemson the year before, but usually there's only one realistic spot open for the playoffs. So now that changes everything, right? So I think that changes a whole lot when you expand these playoffs to 12 teams. Lane gets dialed in. I think he has started dialing in. I think a lot of it has to do with his family. I think with his girl, moving back in with him from California. There's rumor that his boy's now going to move back in with him from California. So really, the roots are starting to be, planted down in Oxford. His girl is now going to enroll at Ole Miss next year. I think a lot of that, I think Lane missed the family. I think Lane, the family being in Cali, and he was in Florida there at FAU. And I think, we all males get lost in the wilderness, so to speak, without our wife and kids. And so I think really just starting to get that family around him again is really settling him down. I think the biggest thing for Lane is he's got to do a better job on the high school front in recruiting. You come off a Sugar Bowl, you sign 15 players. That should not happen out of the high school ranks. But luckily for him, this is, they're saying this is a class inside the state of Mississippi that's on par with the 2019 class, where you had 19 4- or 5-star players out of Mississippi, which is really strong. So that's going to really help Lane a lot, having so much localized talent inside the state of Mississippi this year, along with Pete Golding coming back, with a lot of Mississippi roots, along with his family, and then Derek Nix and Bolden on the staff that played at Southern Miss. So there's a lot of Mississippi roots to be able to recruit off of that Mississippi team. So that really could play in his favor this year on the recruiting on the recruiting trail.
Well, yeah, and you just mentioned about his kids being across the country, and now one by one coming back there with him in Oxford. I mean, you think that's not a big deal? You're out of your mind. And I just, he's a young coach, incredible resume, great play caller, great developer of quarterbacks, and as he, everybody has to make changes on their staff every year. That's just part of it. It could be wholesale with a new coach coming in, new head coach, or new coordinators or whatever. But it's going to be interesting in the spring to to see how the offensive line meshes with a new coach. And Quinshon Judkins, as a running back, was one of the top 2 or 3 ever as a true freshman in SEC history. I hope that is the correct statement right there. Number 2 follow-up is, what is his ceiling as a player? Because again, he came out of Park Crossing. How did Auburn and Alabama miss him? Hey man, how did they miss Chris Mitchell out of Town Creek too? You can't get every player. And Philip, golly, Philip Rivers. How do you miss these guys? But they do. That's just the way it goes.
It happens everywhere. How did everybody miss on Jerry Rice, Walter Payton, Brett Favre, Steve McNair? So, in Mississippi, we can run down a lot of the greatest players, arguably 4 of the 5 greatest players out of the state ever, and didn't hold any D1 scholarships. So not only in Alabama with Quinshon Judkins get players be missed. Now it is more and more rare these days with the recruiting services and the amount of money that's being spent with the scouts, going through every high school with the fine comb, but it still does happen. Yeah, and I watch over and over how hard it is to try to evaluate talent. And you mentioned an AJ Browne. He was from Starkville, I believe. Yeah. And signed with Ole Miss. He was the number 1 player in the state of Mississippi. You saw him last night in the Super Bowl. This guy is just an exceptional talent. And if you look at his career and what he accomplished in college, are you surprised at all? I mean, another great one out of Mississippi. Seems to be no end to it. And then after that answer, if you can go ahead and let people know how they can follow you. We got to get to Wess Moore over in Little Rock, but love to hear your take on him. No, I know exactly where his career was headed. I begged. I'm a huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan as well. My dad used to be an agent back when he was alive, and he had Lewis Lips out of Southern Mississippi that played with the Steelers. So when I was a kid, I became a huge Steeler fan, and I know some of the scouts over there, being there, covering Ole Miss for a number of years. I begged them to take A.J. Browne, so I still rib them about that to this day. But no, nobody's surprised about what A.J. Brown's doing, because what makes him so unique is not only the size, it's being able to stick his foot in the ground, make people miss. He's just a complete package. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's very easy. Just go to @Yancy Porter. You can go to RebelYell.com as well for the Rebel Yell Hotline show. And I appreciate you having me on the show as always. And I hope you and your listeners have a blessed day. Ditto to you, and I'll be listening tonight on Sports 56 at 6 p.m. Central and Super Talk Mississippi. Great one to talk again. Good show tonight. We got Marshall Henderson on to go over a little Ole Miss basketball, and then we got Coach Carl Lafferty to go over the upcoming baseball season. Thank you, guys. You bet. We'll be right back with Wess Moore, ESPN 103.7 The Buzz in Little Rock in just a minute.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Wes, let's get started talking about this past weekend. Razorbacks at home against Mississippi State. Hey, There are no easy places in the SEC. I don't know how good the league is or not, but you can never take off. But this is one I thought the Hogs were going to get. Now they're at 6-6 in the league. I keep wondering, are they going to be able to make that breakaway move like they did last year, starting off 1-3 and ended up 14-4 and got to the Elite Eight. Do you see that happening with this team, regardless of Nick Smith Jr. or whatever coming back?
Yeah, we did, and until that Mississippi State loss. Arkansas had won 5 straight SEC games, and they started out 1-5, and all of a sudden they were 6-5, beat Kentucky on the road, and you had this good feeling, this vibe that they had turned it around. You got a home game against Mississippi State. You got Nick Smith coming back. They hadn't played at home on a Saturday in 3 weeks, sold-out crowd. You just had that feeling that this was going. Now, I was a little concerned about a Kentucky letdown. That was a big win, and look, I saw it. They just did not play the same way. I'm not taking any credit away from Mississippi State because they played better than Arkansas. They played better offensively. They played better defensively. They made their shots. They deserved to win. Arkansas just didn't play well, and really what stuck out was defense. Arkansas, like Mississippi State, is a very good defensive team. And Mississippi State scored 70 points on Arkansas. That's the most points Mississippi State scored in the SEC this year. And that happened on the road against a supposedly good defensive team. So Arkansas did not get after them defensively. But credit Mississippi State, man. They hit 6 of 10 threes. This is not a good three-point shooting Mississippi State team. And they made 6 of 10 threes, and that's the difference of the game. They shot the ball well. Of course, they're going to play good defense. They're one of the best defensive teams in the country. And I'll tell you this, they're an up-and-coming team. They kept talking about how they're now on the bubble. I believe it. I think Mississippi State has an excellent chance of being in the NCAA tournament when it's all said and done. In fact, I think they're going to beat Kentucky when they host them later this week.
Well, it doesn't get any easier. Arkansas's got to go play at Texas A&M against Buzz Williams, one of the last men in America still wearing a 3-piece suit. God, it's annoying. But A&M is just one of these teams. Name me a player on the team. The average person can't. But they just keep winning. And they're just there. They're kind of like the IRS, and death. They're just two constants. With Buzz Williams, they win. Last year, we heard about they didn't get to the NCAA bid, but they went and won 27 or 28 games, went pretty far in the NIT. And you can't say that the NIT is, well, you're the 65th best team or 69th best team in America, because in reality, we know a lot of those bids in the NCAA tournament are automatics. Basically, they're just, cannon fodder or stage props or the Washington Generals for the rest of basketball. But I look at them and they won't go away. And now Arkansas goes on the road. Let's talk about that matchup because it's going to be Wednesday night in College Station. Those yell leaders will be out there doing those cheers that I just do not understand. If someone can explain them to me, please do.
I tell you what, A&M's a good team. Boots Radford is he's going to get consideration for SEC Player of the Year, but he's not going to get it because it's a balanced team. But he is a heck of a player. Taylor the fourth, great shooter, great driver. I think so highly of A&M that a month ago, I put a futures bet on them to win the SEC and got outstanding odds at 3,000 to 1. And now that pick's looking like there's a chance. They're 2 games behind Alabama. They need Alabama to slip up, and they host Alabama the last game of the season there at Reed Arena. That's a tough place to play. They've only lost 1 game, and it came in the non-conference against Wofford of all people, and that's what's holding A&M back. They had a horrible non-conference record, and they turned it around. They got into SEC, and they're playing very good basketball. They lost on the road to Kentucky, and they lost on the road to Arkansas. That's it. And A&M's schedule is favorable down the stretch. I think they've still got a chance to go into that last game of the year with a chance to win the SEC. Of course, I'm biased because I got some money riding on it, but I think that they're a very good team, and this is going to be a tough game for Arkansas to go on the road. You got, A&M's going to have that chip on their shoulder because they lost to Arkansas at Bud Walton Arena. They want a little payback. But it's a good matchup for Arkansas. I think they've got a shot to go in there and pull off. And it'll be an upset. A&M's going to be favored to win the game at home, as they should be. But it's a team that deserves to be in the tournament right now. But I know Lenardi still had them on the outside looking in. But this is A&M's an NCAA tournament team. You finish second in the SEC, you're a tournament team.
Yeah, and that's you're right, because they deserve it, and I think they're very likely going to be my favorite to win the SEC basketball tournament. That they may not win the regular season, but I hope for your sake they do. 3,000 to 1, those are really good odds. But bottom line, if they get in the SEC and win the tournament, they get the automatic bid. But again, to even say as a 10-2 team, second only to Alabama, ahead of 8-4 Tennessee, and then 7-5 Auburn, which is just a struggling team that they've got issues with guards, with not being big enough, shooting guards, whatever. But the biggest problem, Auburn, quit talking about the officiating, man. Just focus on being a better team and quit blaming the refs. I don't know how good Auburn is, but they're not as good as last year's team, and that team got blown out in the second round in a terrible matchup against Miami. But I think about A&M. That's absurd, and that's why these guys that do all this, who's in, who's out, who's on the bubble, and whatever, along with the three-piece suit, they're annoying too. I mean, Wess, it's almost like it's a beauty pageant. There's a lot of politics involved, and A&M. They don't get the respect. You mentioned the player of the year because he's on a balanced team, but I don't know of a more balanced team. And I look at this Arkansas team, man, there's a lot of talent on there. If they'd won 5 in a row, now they got to just put that one behind them. That's going to be hard to do at College Station, but it's also not that tough of a place to play.
Well, I tell you what, they're excited right now. I watched that A&M Auburn game the other night, and I don't think Auburn's a struggling team. I just think they've lost to some really good teams, close games, and it's been a play here, play there down the stretch, and Auburn just hasn't made the play. I still think Auburn's a good team. Yeah, they have some deficiencies. They're probably not a Elite Eight team, but they could win a couple of games in the NCAA tournament. They've got enough talent. That Auburn A&M game was awesome. I mean, I had nothing in that. And I just sat there and watched it as a basketball game. Those two teams going back and forth. And that crowd played a big difference towards the end of the game, and I think it affected the officials. I think A&M shot like 30 free throws that game. But and it's funny, Arkansas was having the same exact problem as Auburn. They were fouling too much. They were sending the other team to the free throw line way too much. I don't know what changed. I don't know how it changed. But during this win streak, Arkansas has quit fouling so much. They're still being aggressive on defense, as you saw in the Kentucky game, but they're not being called for as many fouls, or they're not fouling as much. And maybe that's something Bruce Pearl, he needs to find out what that secret is, because that's killing Auburn right now.
Yeah, and I mean, again, you look at Auburn, yeah, they have lost to some good teams. If the SEC, if these teams are really good teams, but I also think their schedule was much more back-end loaded in terms of the tougher teams that you've got on your schedule. Having to play at A&M, they played A&M twice in 2 weeks, lost both of those games. And look, we know the officiating can be inconsistent, especially when you go on the road, but it's that way for everybody. And as a coach, I just would focus on, hey, we got to do what we can control. You cannot control the officials. And I think that's a problem. And I mean, look, but Auburn, they'll play with anybody. They're not getting blown out by 20 or 30 points. They are close to winning these games. But you look at Arkansas. What do you think led to them starting off losing 5 of the first 6? Was it youth and inexperience? Was it lack of, no Nick Smith Jr., or all of the above, or something I'm not mentioning?
It's a little bit of everything, because it started out, it was an offensive problem. To lose at LSU, I mean, that's a terrible loss. That's killing Arkansas right now. You can't go and lose to LSU, but Arkansas, they couldn't make any baskets. And it was the day of the Liberty Bowl. And I don't know if they sat there and watched the Liberty Bowl and then tied up their sneakers and went out and played or what, but it was ugly. And they lost by 3 points. Then
Yes.
they go on the road, and one of the losses was at Missouri. They're up 10 with 6 minutes to play. And that was the officials started calling everything and sent Missouri to the free throw line. I'm not going to blame it on the officials, but Missouri shot like 15 more free throws than Arkansas down the stretch. Not in the game, but down the stretch.
Yeah.
They lost that game by 3. They went to Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt got red hot in the second half and made 70% of their three-pointers in the second half and scored 63 points against Arkansas in the second half and just and waxed them. And then Alabama, you got Alabama at home, and you're up 3 late in the game, and Alabama goes off and ends up winning that by. So they were in position to win these games, but they lost them all. And now all of a sudden, it's probably growing up. You look at it, Jordan Walsh, Anthony Black, even Ricky Council. He's new to the SEC. You know, the Mitchell twins. They were all new to the SEC, and it's just different when you get into SEC play. And maybe they weren't ready for it, or maybe they just need to get their feet wet, but now they're playing a lot better.
Wes, you see a lot of high school basketball as well in the state of Arkansas, and it's probably typical of what is in Alabama and Mississippi, Missouri, Louisiana, Kansas, Texas, whatever. Is there a message that's being sent, good or bad, from the colleges, from the NBA about what you need to be working on at that level, or what's not getting through, other than it doesn't seem like people work on fundamentals anymore, at least very much?
I can tell you this, and that's one of the reasons why Musselman's been so successful recruiting, not just Arkansas, but the entire country. But, you know, he's getting the top Arkansas players, and Arkansas has top players.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go back to Bobby Portis, Daniel Gafford, Moses Moody, Nick Smith Jr. now, Layden Blocker, who's from Little Rock, and he's a 5-star that just signed for this next class. There's a junior at Little Rock Central, Honor Boateng, who's he's a 5-star, one of the top players in the country. I mean, it seems like every year now there is a top level player, but Musselman is great at, while he's recruiting them, he's developing them. He'll break down their film. He'll tell them, hey, here's what you need to work on. Here's what we need to get better before you get here, assuming you get here. And so that's one of the things, we were just talking with Boateng the other day. He was like, Arkansas is telling me I got to get better on the 3-point shot. I got to get better with my ball handling skills. So that's something I'm working on every single day. Well, that's making him a better player and preparing him for college so that, they don't have to start there when he gets there. It's something he's already been working on. So I think that pays off for Arkansas high school football when you're helping out the recruits, while they're still in high school. And look, when Arkansas is successful in basketball, that more kids have that dream, that goal of going to play for the Razorbacks, and they work a little bit harder. So it's just with anything, the more success you have at the flagship program, it's going to filter down to the high school level. And look, Arkansas has been a basketball state for a long time. They have and look, one of the summer basketball coaches that I'm good friends with, he tells me all the time, and he tells the players, you're the 12th man on your summer basketball team, and you're a 6'2" guard. What are you doing? You need to go out and play football. You can be a 6'2" defensive back, get a college scholarship. You could play in the NFL with as athletic, as fast as you are, as quick as you are.
Yeah.
You're a great defensive back or a wide receiver. Don't sit on the end of your bench. Go out there and play some football. And that's what they're trying to get them to do. But basketball is so popular. You think about it, how much more fun is it to travel around the country in the summer and play in air-conditioned gyms, or go out in the heat in the summer and work out and do 7-on-7 or team camps? That's not very fun. And right now they're choosing the fun thing, the cool thing, and that's basketball.
Yeah, it is very much. And look, we're out on the western flank. You've got Missouri, Oklahoma, and Texas are coming in. It's about to get ratcheted up several notches, and both of those schools have had really good basketball traditions. But for a state of less than 3 million people, man, the state of Arkansas high school basketball tradition is per capita. It's got to be one of the top 5 in the country. But we only got a couple of minutes left. Want to say most often we're going to see the face of Christ and the least among us go out and help people with the expectation of getting nothing in return. I don't give to get, give to give. And we live in the greatest country in the history of the world, people, and we get to talk sports 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, with great minds, great people like Wess Moore. That's Wess with 2 S's. And Wess, tell people here in the last minute or so how they can follow you and what you're going to be talking about on ESPN 103.7 The Buzz in the capital city today.
Of course, we're going to be rehashing that Arkansas loss to Mississippi State. A lot of Super Bowl talk. Clint Sterner will join us at 10:30 today to give us his thoughts on, and Clint, like a lot of us, picked Philadelphia. And so he's going to break down that game, and we're going to give him a home some love. And also, pretty cool thing, Sonny Vaccaro will join us at 11:30 today. You may have seen the trailer last night for Air, and it's kind of the Sonny Vaccaro story. And he's going to join us at 11:30 today to talk a little about the movie, about signing Jordan. So pretty cool. I'm excited to get Sonny Vaccaro on the show.
Oh my God, my wife the other day saw that trailer. She goes, "This is going to be the coolest movie," because there ain't many movies nowadays. People don't go to the movies like they used to. I think they're going to be lined up around the block for several city blocks to see this movie.
I got to give Bill Ingram a tip of the cap. Bill Ingram runs the Joe Johnson Arkansas Hawks, and so he's got a relationship with Sonny Vaccaro through the summer basketball program, and they're a Nike team, and so he's got a relationship with Sonny. And we were talking about the show the other day on the air, and we made the comment, we got to get Sonny Vaccaro on, and he texted me. He's like, "You really want him on?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!" He's like, "All right, let me call him and see if he'll come on." So he pulled some strings, and so Bill Ingram, tip of the cap for getting that done.
Oh, that is going to be great. And that is 11:30 Central Time today, correct?
Yeah. Yep. So you can go to 1037thebuzz.com. You can listen online on your smartphone. You can download the Buzz app. And, it'll be 11:30 today.
We will be listening. That's going to be a great movie. Wess Moore, it's Wess with 2 S's over in Little Rock. Rob Browne saying we are out of here. Have a great day. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for listening.